It's a bunch of crazy stories written by the Brothers Grimm. And now you're gonna learn all about them, listening to the Brothers Grimm.
Students and scholars, friends and relations, welcome to the Brothers Grimm podcast, where we examine the absurd little collection of fairy tales collected and written down by the Brothers Grimm in the early 19th century in Germany, including this week's story number 56, Sweetheart Roland. My name is Phil.
And my name is Mike.
Mike, we had to take a little time off, but it is very good to have you back in the land of the living.
It's very nice to be here. Appreciate it.
I don't want to violate HIPAA laws, but as I understand it, you had quite a bout with COVID.
Yeah.
And got knocked to next Tuesday.
Yeah. We went to Greece for 2 weeks, and then the night we got back, I started getting a scratchy throat, and then pretty much was out for a week with COVID. Which I'm not gonna lie. I obviously it's a killer. But at the same time, I'm not quite at that edge where it can be really dangerous to me. So it mostly was I plowed through a really big book, and I binged a season and a half of this really good show on Prime. So I survived.
Well, I'm glad you're alive.
Yeah, me too. Good to be here. Anyways,
we should talk about Sweetheart Roland, since that's why all of our fans are here. Do you have a grade?
I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I went with a B.
Okay.
How about you?
I went with a D.
Really?
I didn't like this one very much. It was all over the place, and there's just a million strands in the story that just die.
Yeah.
There's better versions of nearly everything that does happen in the book. But we'll see what all of our adoring fans have to say. So, Mike, if you would be so kind, would you please take us through the plot of Grimm's Story 56, Sweetheart Roland?
I would love to. Let's do it. All right, so there's an evil witch with two daughters. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Mm-hmm. Her own and a stepdaughter. Her own is ugly and wicked, and she loves her. And the stepdaughter is beautiful and good, and she hates her. The stepdaughter has a pretty apron, and the other daughter covets it. She tells her mother that she must have this apron, and the witch tells her to be patient, and it will be hers. For now, it's time for the stepdaughter to die. That night, she's going to come in. She's going to murder the girl in their shared bed. So be sure that she's against the wall and not on the outside. The stepdaughter, fortunately, overhears this. She waits for her sister to fall asleep against the wall and then slowly nudges her out to the outside of the bed so that she herself is against the wall. Witch comes in the middle of the night, in the dark, with an axe, feels around, and beheads the girl at the outside of the bed and leaves. Stepdaughter jumps up out of bed, rushes to her boyfriend Roland's house, and tells him what happened. They agree to flee, but he says that first she should run back home and grab the witch's magic wand. So the daughter goes home, steals the wand, and then for no reason in particular takes the dead girl's head and drips a drop of blood on the stairs, one in the kitchen, and one at the foot of the bed. She returns to Roland, and they flee into the night. The witch awakens the next morning. She's ready with that pretty apron that her daughter wanted, so she calls her out. Dropped blood on the stairs, answers. Here on the stairs, I am sweeping. She goes there, but there's no one there. Says, where are you? Here in the kitchen, I am warming myself, says the second drop of blood, and there's no one there. Where are you? Ah, here in the bed, I am sleeping. Witch goes to the bedroom, finds her beheaded daughter bathed in her own blood. Oops. With her bionic witch vision, she looks out the window and sees the stepdaughter running away with her beloved. So the witch puts on her magic boots that let her travel an hour with every step and gives chase. The girl sees her approaching and uses the magic wand to turn Roland into a lake and herself into a duck on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
The witch tries to tempt the duck to the shore, but it refuses, so she gives up and goes back home. The girl and Roland continue on through the night, and as day breaks, she turns herself into a rose and turns Roland into a fiddler, presuming the witch is going to come. Sure enough, witch arrives again, asks Roland if she can pick the rose. He says sure, and that he'll play while she does so. He starts playing, and before she can pluck the rose, she is forced into a magical dance. She dances wildly, the thorns from the rose tear the clothes off of her body, and prick her until she bleeds all over, and she eventually falls dead of exhaustion and blood loss. Roland says he'll go ahead to his home village and arrange their wedding with his father. Instead of coming along, this girl decides to stay in the field disguised as a red milestone. Roland is almost immediately distracted by another girl when he gets home and, quote, fell into her snares and forgets the milestone girl. Milestone girl realizes he's not coming back and is so sad she changes herself into a flower and hopes that she'll be trampled underfoot. One day, a shepherd comes along, finds the flower so beautiful that he picks it, takes it home, and puts it in a trunk. From then on, strange things happen in his house. Specifically, overnight the floor is swept, the table is cleaned, the fire is lit, the water's fetched, and his dinner every noon is laid out when he comes home from the fields. He finds this pretty awesome, but also kind of creepy. So he asks a local wise woman for advice. She says there's definitely an enchantment at work, so if he sees anything moving early in the morning, to throw a white cloth over it to dispel the magic. He does this the next morning. He happens to see the flower come out of the chest. He throws a white cloth over it and it transforms back into the girl. She explains the whole story and he finds her charming, so he asks her to marry him. She declines, surprisingly, however, not wanting to betray her beloved Roland. She agrees to continue keeping house for the shepherd, though. One day after a while, it so happens that Roland's wedding to this other girl is approaching, and an old custom declares that she and all the other maidens in the land must be present for it and sing to the wedding couple. The girl does not want to go, but is ultimately dragged there by some other girls. They all take turns singing, but she hangs back. Finally, she's the last one and reluctantly starts to sing. Roland immediately remembers everything and jumps up, declaring that she is his one true love and he can marry no other. They are wedded on the spot, and everyone lives happily ever after. The end.
Like I said, story's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I don't like any characters in this.
Okay, I want to get into that, but first, do you have a moral?
Stay faithful, but also miserable, and you'll ultimately be rewarded. It's kind of like religion.
I thought be hot. Just it'll work out for you.
It didn't work out for the other girl.
So I don't think she was that hot.
Oh,
but
well, she ensnared Roland, so who knows?
Well, who knows about that? I mean,
yeah,
like,
it's very fishy.
And then we have Grimm's two biggest flaws. First of all, so it's number one, right? Nameless women.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah.
Because the only named character of this story is Roland.
Right. Who's a tool and only has
It's
like
just
2 lines.
Yeah, he has 2 lines. The witch's daughter doesn't get a name. The witch doesn't get a name, despite being the main antagonist. Stepdaughter doesn't get a name, despite being the main character.
Right.
And it's not one of those situations where, like, Sleeping Beauty or whatever was only really in the story for a small chunk of time, right? And they were dealing with other people, but like she's throughout.
Yeah.
From her perspective, this whole thing.
I don't know why it's called Sweetheart Roland.
Yeah, the only other male character, the shepherd, he doesn't get a name, but he kind of does. At least he's not just like the boy. He's like he has an actual thing. You know, he only has 1 paragraph part to play, right? But the stepdaughter is a big part of the driving force behind the action. But so no, she's also just a nameless fairy tale woman.
I take back what I said earlier. I do the shepherd's fine. He's a fine character.
He's great.
He gets sad for him.
He's one of the best male characters in Grimm as far as being a good person, and I'll tell you why. Because he asks the girl out. I guess that at the time it was just you didn't court, you just asked someone to marry you. But then she's like, no, but I'd like to be friends, and he's just like, okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
You want to go to this wedding as friends? That's fine. Like, he's not just like, I make 6 figures and you would be lucky to have a guy like me. He's just like, all right, you're not into it. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll be your plus one.
And she's like, but can I stay here and I'll be your maid? And he's like, the food's been good. I'm going to go out shepherding. Go out with these sheep.
Yeah, that's a fair point. He's pretty good as Grimm guys go.
I don't even think that the Roland's other fiance.
Yeah.
We don't really know what happened there.
Yeah. Are we supposed to blame her? The way it's worded is weird. It's probably just the addition, the translation we have, but it says he fell into the snares of another who prevailed upon his so far that he forgot the maiden, or prevailed upon him so far.
I think the snares, it seems it's blaming the woman for his action more than like, she snared him. Yeah. Snared herself a man, but she didn't do anything. Yeah, she's just hanging out. This guy shows up, and then his ex-fiance shows up, and he's like, "Oh, baby,
I've made a terrible mistake.
I didn't realize I thought you were dead. So, but since you're alive and still pretty hot, hotter than this ugly cow, I would love to marry you instead."
Yeah, no matter what all the assembled guests think, and my fiance.
Yeah, my fiance, whose parents are here, who came all the way from Brent. Where are the animals from?
Brementown.
Yeah, my parents came all the way in from Brementown. Horse ran away to be in a jazz band, so they had to walk the last quarter mile. And But still, they came, and I guess what do we do now? I guess maybe she can go with the shepherd, but that ain't fair.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
a
In my head, I like to pretend that they got together, but it's yeah. So you're talking me down from a B, definitely. There's it's a flimsy story of terrible decisions.
yeah.
Why did the girl not just run away before before the attempted murder?
Oh, that's a huge one. No, like you know what? So the witch is not a good person, right? Very happy to chop off her. No one's saying that the witch is a good person. She's happy to chop off her stepdaughter's head, and her daughter's actually is happy to go along with it. Over an apron, which we never hear about again.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, I don't even know. It might be another one of those things where the translation is weird. What the hell?
Well,
are you talking about?
nobody needs the apron now.
Yeah, but yeah. Instead, she didn't flee the house, which she could have done.
Yeah. Why did the witch need to murder her in the middle of the night in the dark? If she doesn't give a shit, why does it matter?
And it shouldn't. Although, I mean, presumably she would try and hunt her down, but like she would have been with Roland. The same exact stuff would have played out.
Yeah.
And then also, in addition to like you killed your daughter, I'm gonna take the head. I'm gonna drain the blood before packing up the head and taking it with me. I'm gonna take some of that blood. I don't know if she packed the head and took it with her, but
it wasn't clear. I'm curious.
Yeah, she drops, does the drops of blood she's like, oh, this is really gonna mess with this woman's head. This is really gonna mess with my mom's head.
Maybe they'll talk.
I'll cast a spell. And also, like, so now her and Roland are also master magicians.
Yeah, apparently. All you need is a wand.
You need the wand, but they know how to use it. And then I guess even Roland knew how to play the fiddle to fiddle her to death. I hope that's how I go, is being fiddled to death.
Yeah. Why did she stay behind in the field? Terrible decision number 3.
As the flower?
Well, no, she stays behind as a milestone. And then when she realizes he's not coming back, she turns herself into a flower so she can be trampled.
That I get. And I'll tell you why. This is some young love bullshit.
Okay.
She's it's like, oh, my boyfriend left me. Well, I guess I'll just sit in this.
Oh yeah, that
die.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get the
okay.
I'm so sad. I'll turn myself into a flower. Maybe I'll get killed. But what I don't understand is he's like, oh, I'm gonna go arrange our marriage with my father. And she's like, I'll chill here in the middle of a field for no reason.
How long of a walk is it? Well, it's all the way to the village. I mean, you can see the village. It's just off in the horizon over yonder. Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to turn myself into a rock.
All this magic is maybe tired.
I'm quite weary. You do whatever you need to do, and then come back and get me. And presumably with a horse and a buggy. Or something.
She's just like, fuck it, I'm not walking. So along this topic, can we talk temporal anomalies here?
Okay, yeah.
Where does Roland live in relation to this girl? Because first night she runs to his house and then back before the witch wakes up. So she makes it there and back in a night.
It has to be a small village.
But then afterwards it takes them days of traveling to get to his village.
Maybe he had a country home, a pied a terre, or did they go to a different?
That's, you know what? I was assuming they were in different villages, but I think it makes sense if they ran away and then after they killed the witch, they were like, oh, we can go back to the village now. So I'll go back to the village and arrange the wedding. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. That's kind of how I read. Although like there was so much that I had to reread. There was so much of this that I had to reread like 3 times. And it's not that long of a story. It was 7 pages or something, right?
Why are we doing this? Not sure.
Yeah.
Because plot.
How long is it going to take?
Because
can't tell.
Because as usual, the Grimms need to get people in a very specific situation for the payoff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how we get there.
Because
it's like he went off to college.
He went
and left his high school girlfriend behind.
Left his high school.
Then they got back together afterwards.
Yeah. Who never, and you know what, to tell you the truth, this other girl, she's never had creepy murderous stepmom and stepsister.
It's kind of nice to not have baggage.
Oh my darling, my love, the love of my life. You came to my wedding.
What a surprise.
Whoa, shit.
Oh, I remember you.
And you've got a magic wand that can make anyone do anything and kill people, huh? Well, yeah.
I thought of that.
And you've been carrying around your stepsister's head for a while. I'll totally leave this other woman. You just put that wand down. We can talk about this.
Oh boy. There's shades of Fundvogel with turning into a duck on the lake or turning into a flower. There's shades of Snow White with the witch being forced to dance to death. Did you catch any other?
I know what the ATU type is.
Oh,
It's 1119. Ogres kill their own children, followed by 313. The girl helps the hero flee, and the forgotten fiancé.
the girl helps the hero flee. There it is. That's why it's called Sweetheart Roland.
Shepherd and the girl at the altar, I think, had a lucky escape. Because these people are terrible.
Yeah. they'll come to realize that it was for the best. Especially when this power couple with the magic wand takes over the kingdom.
No, like they're gonna do terrible, horrible things. They're gonna just sociopathic, narcissistic things.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, that's just me. Was the witch just looking for an excuse because she hated her stepdaughter that much? Because her stepdaughter was so terrible? She's like, you know what? You want the apron? I was gonna go kill her anyway.
Yeah, that's how I read it. She was like, I've been meaning to do it one of these days. I guess now is as good a time as any.
I peered into the future, and she will absolutely be the death of us all. So we gotta take care of this shit now.
Womp womp.
So you mentioned, by the way, not in this podcast, but earlier, that you had a pitch.
I believe it or not, I do.
Amazing.
I think this is the first time.
It's if not, it might be the first time. I don't think it's the first time. I think you've come before, but one other time you said you hadn't really fleshed it out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I would love to hear your big Hollywood pitch.
I'd love to give it. Do you have one also, or did I scoop?
No, I wrote one down, but I'm very happy to hear yours.
Okay. There's a young girl, Maggie. She grows up poor, lives with her ill widow mother. She works at the local bakery, brings home a small salary, but the elderly baker is kind and sends her home with scraps of breads and the occasional tart or muffin that hasn't sold. He's getting on in years, though, and competition from the newer bakery across town has been eating into his business, so he intends to retire to the countryside and sell the building to the bank. And in the next couple of months, Maggie doesn't know what she'll do. One day, not long after, Maggie's heading home to take her lunch break with her mother, as is her custom, when she comes across a commotion in town. A young man was rushing across the road and was clipped by a carriage. In the accident, he was spun around and struck his head on a curbstone as he fell. He doesn't seem to be wounded, but is unconscious. Maggie runs to help and is cradling his head in her lap as his eyes flutter open. Her face is the first thing he sees. He can't recall who he is, where he is, or why he's here, but she reassures him that he'll be okay. In fact, she knows him from their youth. His name is Roland, and he lives nearby with his father.
Okay.
Maggie helps him home, leaves him with his father, but after that day, begins checking in on him regularly. There seems to be no lasting damage aside from his memory. Over time, he begins to recall living in the village. He remembers his father, doesn't really remember details of his life from the last few years. His father brings him to the mill where he's apprenticed to the mill owner, and Roland returns to work there, finding it soothing to fall into muscle memory when his own mind isn't necessarily reliable.
Okay.
As the bakery closes, Roland manages to get Maggie a job at the mill. It's long hours, but it's steady pay, and Roland and she find themselves working together regularly. A gentle friendship grows and soon blossoms into love. Before long, Roland proposes to Maggie, who's been his world for these last few months, and she happily agrees, and a wedding is planned. Maggie has no dowry to speak of, but the elderly bakers gift her a hefty purse to ensure they have a proper celebration and a more comfortable start to their life together. Her mother and Roland's father delight in helping to plan the wedding. Maggie hasn't seen her mother this lively in years, and Roland's father has some connections in town to help with catering and decorations. They decide to honor some of the older customs, such as having all the maidens from the surrounding area come to celebrate and sing in their honor. The big day arrives, and Maggie walks down the aisle in a beautiful gown she managed to buy with some of the money from the baker.
Oh, I'm
Roland.
very excited. I know where you're going. I think. Go on. Keep going. I'm stoked. I'm stoked.
Roland stands at the altar looking as handsome as ever. Most of the small village there in attendance. It's truly a community party. The chorus of girls in the back lends a nice touch. Each girl takes turns singing a line or two. Most of the voices are gorgeous, and the ones that aren't, well, they're heartfelt and sweet. As Maggie approaches the end of the aisle, there's a minor commotion amongst the girls. There's quiet for a moment, and one girl is pushed forward from the back, reluctant to sing. Maggie gives her a small smile to boost her confidence. The girl's voice begins shaky but gains strength, singing a delicate and mournful tune in contrast with the others. The song's melancholy, but so beautiful no one finds it strange. All at once, Roland staggers down one of the steps towards Maggie, clutching his head in both hands. He looks confused, stricken, and strangely heartbroken. I know the voice. That is the true bride. I will have no other, he exclaims.
Yep.
He moves to Maggie and they lock eyes briefly for the merest moment before he pushes past her towards the back as the assembled guests all gasp and alarm erupts. Roland makes his way back down the aisle Maggie had just walked. Coming toward him is a girl roughly Maggie's age, wearing a ragged dress with disheveled blonde hair. As she and Roland meet, their hands instinctively grasp each other's fingers entwined. I don't understand. Now I remember. And that's where I had to leave off.
Love it. I love naming her Rose too. That's really good. That's
yeah,
fun.
that came to me at the end. Yeah, one of the kids suggested Maggie's name. And I'm thinking of, sitting around the fire with the kids telling this one. And I feel like it would be more interesting to leave it at, he remembers the original girl and, and then stop and then make it a discussion. Be like, all right, so that's the end of the story as we know it. What do you think happened next? What should happen? What should Roland do? What should the two girls do?
It's a very bohemian sort of activity. Like instead of TV, we come up with, we take a writing prompt and come up with ends of fairy tales. I'm not even going to go into mine. I had kind of a mix between this story, Virgin Suicides, and like 90s Cruel Intentions stuff.
Oh, that sounds good.
Maybe I'll work that into something else. But I just went real. I went real 90s edgy dark with it, and I was because I was running out of time. No, but I really like.
Maybe the next time we come up another Forgotten Fiance.
Well, yeah, I can go through and see which one it is, and then maybe or just do next week's story. I'll tack a 90s Cruel Intentions style remake onto story 57, The Golden Bird.
Nice.
I will say this. Your pitch made me like this story a little better. I'm willing to go up to a C.
Yeah, why don't we call it a C?
You want to meet in the middle?
You brought me down, I brought you up.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And just only because of your pitch though did I start enjoying what happened here, because other than that, like I said, it's just a big fucking mess.
Yeah. It's a lot of bad decisions and a lot of unlikable characters.
Yeah, but I digress. Mike, if there was something that someone wanted to tell us about this story or talk to us about anything else, is there a way they could contact us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can be reached at brothersdimpodcast@gmail.com. And we're also available on Blue Sky at brothersdim.
Well, thank you, Mike. And thanks to all of our fans for listening. This has been story number 56, Sweetheart Roland. Sleep tight, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.